Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Happy Wednesday. What's up, everybody? How you doing there? How you doing there, Callow? What's up?
What's going on? Going on. Another number 8 goal.
Another number eight. Yeah. Like bury the headline. They lost, but they
It
got the
was
number eight
overtime.
goal.
It
Yeah.
was overtime. It wasn't.
This sport too. That could be Stanley Cup final preview. But in this sport, the ones playing each other like never happens. So, because it's just so the randomizer hits once the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. But they're big boys, and that was a fun game last night. So it was good.
Yeah, no, really good game last night. That pass by Alexi Protas was silly to Ovechkin too. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it, but really good game last night.
All right, let's start with the football news, which is this is a surprise to me. Russell Wilson signs with the Giants. I had just spent an entire show explaining how I'm like, you know what? Like, I actually get what they're thinking. And when they got passed over by obviously Stafford and I think Rodgers, like obviously because they signed Russ, that they got passed over by him, I went, okay, like don't do anything crazy here. Don't go trade for Purdy. Like, don't do anything nuts, this is where I always thought they were going to go. They're going to do something crazy, or they were going to give up everything to get to number one. Like, they're going to do something nuts because their jobs are on the line. And they signed Jameis. And I went, all right, that's a good move. Like, you're not paying him a lot of money. He's a veteran. He'll be great content for your social media team. Everybody likes Jameis. If he's a bridge quarterback, he's a bridge quarterback. You all know what the score is, and you'll draft somebody. You're picking number 3. And then all the reporters said, this doesn't stop them from signing Russ or Aaron Rodgers. And I went, sure it does, because why would you do that now? And then they did it. So you got an explanation for me for this one to sign both of them? Because I actually don't understand that.
I think it's this, and I think it coincides with what happened over the last really 48 hours. It's that Cam Ward's going to get drafted first overall by the Titans.
That's what I think too. Yes.
That I think that if there was a quarterback the G-men were going to take, it was going to be Cam, not Shador. And that was going to be worth the 3rd overall pick. And now I think we've gotten to the point where they were doing googly eyes at each other during the workout yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever, I think it was yesterday, where he was saying, I'm solidifying it today. I think this is a move directly to that. And it tells you the state of what all the other quarterbacks are in this draft. They're not willing to take them at number 3. Maybe they trade down and take somebody. But I think this was a definitive, we're not getting Cam Ward. We might as well get our starter right now.
So let me ask this question. If you're Cleveland or Pittsburgh, do you look at Will Levis now? Do you look at him and go, maybe there's a...
You know how I feel. You know how I feel about Will Levis. I mean,
but seriously, if that's what they're doing,
no, Will Levis he's done. Like, I'm sorry. Like, the boneheaded plays he was making last week or last year were just every week. We would come in every Monday. Hey, Jaden Daniels did this amazing thing. Did you see what Will Levis did though? It would just be like not top 10. I mean, he could have his own not top 10. Yeah. I told you this. I'm a pass-fail guy. He had
7 butt fumbles last year.
Right.
I told them. Yeah.
I told you, I'm a pass-fail guy with quarterbacks. I've never called a quicker fail than Will Levis. So I'm like, out.
It was
he kept playing bad.
I don't think Mike Keith will be upset with me for sharing this now. He used to be the voice of the... I was only saying it because he used to be the voice of the Titans. He just took the job. He's the new voice at University of Tennessee, and he left the Titans. So there'll be a new voice of the Titans this year. Mike had done it forever. Of course, we played the Titans last year and blew them out.
Killed them.
And I remember, like, I talked to all the voices, before the game, just kind of get a sense of what they think of their team. And he had and I asked him about Levis, because I even said, I'm like, he's made a lot of gaffes, I think was the way I put it. And he's like, yeah, he goes, but he was effusive about him in a way, like typically when they're not on the air, the same way I'll be like honest with the voice of the other team. I'll be like, here's what's going on, like, don't say this, but here's what's going on, and like, it's just to give you context so you can tell our story a little bit. He was going on and on about Levis, about how he likes him, the team likes him, they believe in him, like they think it's going to turn a corner, like they get he's made these crazy mistakes, but I guess they got the number 1 pick, they got a new GM, they like this guy. What are you going to do? And honestly, like, I thought all along that they would trade it. That's what I thought they would do. I thought they would trade it because there aren't many quarterbacks this year worth trading up for. He's the one if you're going to do it. And you know how teams get, like when they get desperate, they will give up a crazy haul to make it happen. And if you like Levis enough and you don't think he's going to be Jaden Daniels, then the obvious answer is you do that. But it looks like when Russ signed with the Giants, I had the same conclusion. I went, well, they're at number 3 and they're not getting him now. Like they now know this. They know they're not getting him now, that the googly eyes got a little too thick or the message got across. The Tennessee said, we're not taking your calls about it. And at that point, they had to make a choice. And I still don't get why they went with Russ. I somewhat understand it and really kind of don't. Like you got Jameis in there as a bridge. Everyone loves Cutlets as your backup. Like I didn't get the necessity to do this really either way, other than I agree with you. It signaled to me that they know they're not getting Cam Ward now. That's it.
Their minimum, Cam Ward won't make it past the Browns. I think is really like what it is. Too.
Yes.
Like he's not making it past both of them. So I think they had to react a little bit more strong.
Unless they want to pay some crazy price to get him, which they, I guess, probably don't. But see, this is where the Giants were. They were squarely in the bullseye to me of, you're going to do something nuts. I know it. I just don't know when, because you guys are in survival mode. You've struck out on the ones that make sense. Try to get Stafford. Okay. Like, they were Ron a couple years ago. Ron's in trouble. Ron needs to get a quarterback. Ron's got to do something. Ron calls everybody. Ron lands on Wentz. You know, like the Giants were in the same boat of, we better find somebody and get somebody in here because if it doesn't work out, it's going to fail. But the answer always to me was just trade up to number 1. You're sitting at number 3. You can get Cam Ward. It will buy you a couple of years. But as it turns out, it looks like Cam Ward and the Titans are falling in love. And now that that's happened, well, you know, they're not taking your calls anymore. They're getting ghosted again. And so they went and they turned to Russ. And like to be fair to him, there were periods of time last year he was pretty good. In fact, when he played us, he was kind of in his best stretch with Pittsburgh. It felt a little one-trick pony. He was able to throw these balloon balls that like went down the sideline, and Pickens or others would make these crazy big plays for them. They're obviously a very competitive team. They're very well coached. They're in every game they play. And if you make a couple big plays and you don't turn the ball over, you're good to go in a situation like that. And then it all kind of went bust as things went along with him. The year before in Denver, when Peyton was railroading him. So this was his second year in Denver. And it started from the get-go when they're like, whatever you got on the 3rd floor, the yoga studio or your handlers or whatever, we're getting rid of that. It was, the line was drawn. It's my way or the highway. And actually, it's going to be the highway for you one way or the other. And they railroaded him. But he wasn't, I remember, playing that poorly, actually, like that year. And a lot of people were kind of like, why are you benching him? The choice you're, because they didn't have Knicks yet. They were like, the choice you have is not really better than him. He wasn't playing that poorly. He was on his best behavior. He wasn't really like causing trouble for them, but Peyton just wanted him out. Obviously just wanted him out. So the last couple of years, in fairness to him, while he hasn't been consistent like he was in Seattle, it's not like he was terrible. It wasn't really bad. So from that perspective, the Giants get an upgrade from what they've had. But it's the New York media. I don't know. Like, it just, to me, in the end, it feels like, I guess they probably feel like they're just striking out all over the place and they got to do something. And that's what it feels like it is. Like, they looked around and they said, we'll just let him pinch hit. Let's take a chance, see if it's a home run. He hasn't hit one in 5 years, but maybe he will this time. It's like what it feels like to me, what they did.
To me, I kind of piggyback off what we've been talking about with the Giants. If they did go kind of all in on defense on free agency, like they upgraded that defense, I think the defense looks good. I think they're just taking the Steelers formula and copying it. They think, let's get a professional quarterback in here. We've got a pretty good wide receiver duo in Slayton and in Neighbors. Let's get Russ in here. We'll score some points. Hopefully we hold teams to 17-21 and the offense is good enough to, get us over the hump. I think this is what it is. I think they're just trying to go all in on defense and trying to get a professional quarterback in there to score some points. I don't think it's going to work, but here we are.
This will be also like, this also screams like, I saw some people say, well, they could take Shedeur Sanders at 3 anyway. And I'm like, Jameis, Russ, Shedeur, Cutlets. Like, what are you talking about?
I mean, DeVito could be
right. Then you would cut him, but still, like, okay, I guess, you know, like I suppose you could do that, or you could take best offensive lineman off the board at that point, and then you could see what happens. Like I saw somebody mock out a draft where they trade back into the first round late to get Jackson Dart. And that would make sense to me, that's where the young quarterback goes. You're not committing a ton of resources to it. That's where we might come into play, where, you know, like typically in the past, division rivals don't trade with one another, but we broke that rule with Philadelphia a couple times last year. Dallas has traded with Philadelphia, so that rule's kind of a little out the window. I would think Washington's open for business if that's a serious thing. I think Washington should be open for business for anybody who wants to come in at 29, likely to draft a quarterback like Jackson Dart because they want to get that extra year. Like, I understand that. It would be a way for them to recoup some of the draft assets that they spent on Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel. So I would totally be open to something like that happening. And maybe that's what they're looking at. They could take the best offensive lineman off the board at number 3. Like, it'll be sitting there. I don't think they would take Abdul Carter at 3 because they have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. So I can't imagine, even if they think he's better than Thibodeau, I don't think they would take him there. So I think they could take, this will be the third time they've done that in 5 years, take the best offensive lineman off the board and see how it goes. But they can't seem to get that right. So maybe that's what they do. And they kick the can down the road on quarterback again because they just kind of have to. I said this earlier, like, honestly, like, and this is interesting with this. Dallas feels like a sinking ship to me. They haven't really improved their roster, maybe marginally. They don't feel like the karma's off. The coaching decision was strange. Even if you like Brian Schottenheimer, the coaching decision was really strange, how they came to it. Dak's coming off an injury-riddled season. It doesn't look like he has a lot of weapons anymore. More defensive players left and defected. Coaching staff switched over. Like, it feels like there's just a lot of holes in the boat, and it's just going down, right? This move with Russ, combined with the things they did on defense, which, to be fair to the Giants, I think they've done a nice job addressing the back end of their secondary, and they have a very good front. Burns, Lawrence, Thibodeau, that's a very dangerous front. Couple that with what looks to be a very good, formidable secondary, they might have a pretty good defense on paper. They feel like the Patriots to me last year. Good defense, offense that can't score, right? And what is that like going to look like all year? This move with Russ, if he just stabilizes them and makes them decent on offense, and they have a decent running game with a probably better-ish offensive line, maybe this running back breaks out, has a pretty good year. Neighbors we know is a freak, and the rest of the other skill position guys are good enough for them to be competitive, would be the way I would put it. They might be the third-place team in the division and be looking at Washington or Philadelphia to be off to try to potentially be the second place team in the division, which feels unlikely to me, but is possible. They might have done that by making this move today.
No, they remind me of the 2020 Washington football team, where the defense looks like it's going to be good. We have no idea what the offense is going to look like. And you're going to win some really ugly games down the stretch, maybe because you can muster 17 points and your defense holds on against some of the bad teams. Like, if you can get yourself over.
Has a couple of freak games and they score some points because because he's a freak, and he might have a couple freak games for you.
No, exactly. And they can get over that, 40% of the bad teams or something. If they can beat those teams and then sneak in with a couple wins here and there, that seems to be the formula, which I guess is what Shane and Dayball are hoping. So they survive another year. It's basically what it sounds like.
Like, when they signed Jameis, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. At number 3, they take a rookie quarterback. Jameis starts at the beginning of the season. Rookie quarterback doesn't play either late in the season, or if it's going relatively well, not until the second season. And it just buys them time. Like, it's if you can't get the Staffords of the world to come to you, well, this is a way to buy some time for job security. They got to let you see it through with the young quarterback. And if you don't start up day one, well, they can't see it through in year one. So you have to give them the opportunity to continue to move on. By signing Russ, they just punted on that, partially because they're probably not going to get the quarterback they want, which is Cam Ward. And they're not, it signals to me, and maybe I could be wrong, that they're not going to go in a different direction, and they're not going to take another rookie quarterback early in the draft because they don't believe in him, that's important. You can't just take anybody. Like, that's the mistake that I think a team like this, when they get into a desperate position and the decision makers are thinking about their job security and not what's best for the team, but they're thinking about their job security, you can make a bad choice and just go, well, we have to take a quarterback, so just take one at 3, even though they don't think he's the right guy. So at least by doing this, maybe they've separated that out and said, we can't just do that. If it's not going to be Cam Ward, it's not going to be anybody at 3 for us.
No, I think, you know what? If that's the call, that's the call. I don't mind that either, because it does sound like Cam Ward is the one that played himself into this first overall pick more so than being anointed it, right? I think everyone thought he'd be the first quarterback a couple months ago, but now he's solidifying his spot and looking over and making googly eyes with the Titans, and they're doing it back. He's going to be the first overall pick, and now it's where do all those other guys go? Like, Shedeur clearly is not going 3, right? So, like,
I don't think so.
Where do some of these other guys end up going? Now it's definitive that Ward was the one the whole time. Now it's where everyone else shuffles in.
I think somebody moves up to get Shedeur Sanders is what I think. And I don't know at what spot in the draft that actually happens. And then I would start to wonder, like, does Dallas make this move and move up to get him? And then that kind of greases the wheels for Dion to be the coach there at some point in time, and for them to eventually move on from Dak, who they, it feels like unwisely signed him to another ridiculous extension because they keep getting themselves into bad leverage situations with their players. I want to get to one other thing from there, which I thought this was really rich. Albert Breer put out his weekly piece on SI, and he says Aaron Rodgers is being somewhat indecisive right now because he's had opportunities, clearly. Like, I think the Giants would have signed him if he went there. Sounds like he wanted to go to Minnesota, and I don't know what the truth is. Did they want a decision from him? Did they not really want him? It's kind of hard to tell right now. No one's telling the truth about that. Pittsburgh at least met with him. They don't have a quarterback right now. Like he clearly has some options in front of him. I don't know what he's waiting for. But Albert writes that part of the indecisiveness is he longs for another culture like he had in Green Bay. And again, I want to be fair here to Rodgers, because if you ask him personally about this stuff, he'll tell you, I didn't talk to Albert Breer. I'm not his source. I don't know what he's talking about. And honestly, his sources would be astrological signs. So I don't know where Breer is getting this, but the chatter around him is, he recognizes it was a mistake to leave Green Bay and go to a place that's not settled and is dysfunctional. And he wants to go back to the calm again of what a stable organization looks like.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, here's the thing, too. Rodgers loves being a celebrity, but I don't think he likes being a celebrity while he plays football. And so in Green Bay, of course, everyone's going to know who you are. But that area, we both have been there. That's maybe the most unique place to play football in the entire country, right? Like, I don't think there's a place like it, a place that's calm like it, that is, honestly, it's not a big city, obviously. It's a town. It's a literal town. He's not going to find anywhere like Green Bay, let alone how they actually operate the franchise, too, where it's no nonsense. They take the best player available. They don't make these big splash moves. The drama is at a low with that franchise. It always has been. Where's been the biggest dramatic pieces? Him and Brett Favre. That's it. Like, that's all you can really name in Green Bay that has been dramatic. So, okay, good luck with that, Rodgers. There's nowhere else that exists like Green Bay.
But okay, how does Pittsburgh not qualify for this? Like, they're as stable an organization as you can get. They have the longest tenured coach, who followed an extremely long tenured coach, who followed the longest tenured coach. They have ownership that dates back to the beginning of the NFL. Like, they've had their issues like anybody else, but man, in hindsight, when you learn more about Antonio Brown after the fact and how they dealt with him there, or Plexico Burress to some degree, not to that level, but the issues that he ended up having once he left, or others, like, they seem to be able to handle these things differently. They're not a huge media market. Look at Russ. They were really good last year. Nobody was talking about his Instagram, like, they weren't going crazy about him there. Why doesn't he just sign with them? They have a winning record every single year. They are as stable as you get. It's quiet. Nobody pays a tremendous amount of attention to them. They're not topic A on First Take. Like, I don't know. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, if this is what you're looking for, it's sitting right in front of you, guy. Why don't you sign with them?
I do think a part of it is the fan base, too. Like, Packers fans, they're like other NFL fans, but mostly, like, they're usually pretty solid and don't complain about much. They know what their team, their franchise is. Pittsburgh fans are not. Pittsburgh fans are loud when they're bad. You're hearing the stuff about Tomlin. Like, it's starting to bubble up now with Tomlin. Like, it was always locally, people wanted more noise for Tomlin. Now it's starting to hit nationally. Maybe the fan base is part of that too.
I told you this, and my take on that is this, actually. I don't think it's Tomlin. I don't think their roster's been good enough. And I obviously don't think they've handled the end of Ben's career and the succession plan very well. That's my opinion on it. Like, in that division, or really anywhere, we learned this forever. If you don't have a quarterback, you can't win, period. You don't have to have the best one, but you got to have a good one, and you can't win otherwise. And they're the ones that took Pickett. You know, when everyone said there's no first-round pick quarterback this year, but they took him. They waited too long on Ben. He was too injured at the end of his career. They didn't get his successor in place. Then when it was too late and he couldn't play anymore, they went and took Pickett. That turned out to not be a very good choice. And from there, they've gotten it either wrong or they've done what we did for years, which is, well, let's just try this guy or let's just try that guy or he could be our Heineke. Like, that's what they've been doing. And they're in a division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Like, good luck with that. And yet they'll go 2-2 against them. Like, that's the craziest part of the whole thing. I actually don't think it's Tomlin. I think it's the personnel department has not given him the team to win with. That's what I think it is. And I think they have mishandled quarterback. And I think they're weak-ish at certain spots. And that's what the problem is. And they should be looking closer. I think their fans should be looking closer at the construction of the team and specifically who the quarterback is over how they're being coached. You could probably nitpick Tomlin all you want, but that team's in the playoffs every year or has a winning record every year. Y'all are spoiled if you think that that's normal anywhere. It's not. It is not normal to be that way. There are ups and there are downs. You guys don't have downs, and you don't even see that.
Yeah, but at the same time, one game over 500 and not making the playoffs is the same as middling in my eyes, though.
Right.
Like, I'm just saying.
With crappy quarterback play.
Sure. Right. No, I get it. But, like, at the same time, this is a little Wizards. You're then never bad enough to get one of the quarterbacks. You're never bad enough to get one of the quarterbacks.
Tomlin, bruh.
Pittsburgh, bruh. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is the problem with that formula, though. You're never bad enough to go get the quarterback. So, like, you got to pick a direction at some point.
I think in the NFL, like the difference between the good teams and the bad teams is like that. So even if you have a down year, you can flip it fast. Like, go look at Houston 2 years ago. Once they got a quarterback in there, they drafted the right quarterback. They made a couple of nice draft picks. Boom. They were like good playoff team to the point last year at this time we're going, look at them loading up. They're going to be a Super Bowl team like overnight. I'm sure people are looking at Washington right now. Coaching change, GM change, got the quarterback. Boom. Overnight, they're a Super Bowl contender. It can change fast. Pittsburgh's been slow and steady. They just haven't won the race in a while. But to me, it's all about they have not had a top tier quarterback since Prime Ben. And that's their fault, right? That's their fault for that.
It hasn't just been a while. It's been 2016. Like, it's been a long time, actually, for them since they made the playoffs or won a playoff game. I think it's won a playoff game,
but they've been in the playoffs a million times because they go over 500 every single year.
Right. So, I mean, yeah. I'm just saying, like, it's something's got to give, though. Like, you just named all those changes that happened here. None of those changes really happened there, except the one thing that happens in Pittsburgh. They fire the offensive coordinator every other year. It's always the offensive coordinator's fault every single time. Like, it's like, okay, guys, we get it.
Let's see. One other thing from Albert Breer's piece, and I thought this was a great one. Why has Kirk Cousins not been moved? Okay, so here's Russ signing with the Giants. Rodgers is still out there. We'll see. The dominoes are pretty much set. Looks like Tennessee's going to go in the direction of Cam Ward. If they do, what does that mean for Will Levis? Does he get another another opportunity somewhere else? Does he become a tradable piece? Maybe. Like, that's a possibility. Somebody might look at him like that. Maybe not. Maybe he's just the backup for a year. They deal with it on the other side. But maybe he is. We'll see. Cousins is still... Now, there's just no chance on earth he's going to be on Atlanta with that salary, being the backup quarterback. There's just no chance it's going to happen. They are going to trade him. But in this piece, because everyone was like, you just gave him another guaranteed $10 million when you know he's not going to be on the team. Cousins has a no trade clause, okay? And he's willing to be traded, but this is what Albert Breer wrote, and I don't blame him. Cousins basically is telling the Falcons, I am not going to be traded to a team who then drafts my successor the same day like you guys did. So you're stuck with me until I find the place that's going to make me a promise that I get to be the starter no matter what, right? And I'm not going to be fooled again like what you guys did to me. So this is his make good on them. He's going, you're stuck with me until I pick the place where I go and I play, and I am assured that no one's going to take my job 10 minutes later because you guys had a change of heart about what you're going to do in the draft.
I mean, honestly, good for him. That's what he should be doing. And you wait to see who's waiting there on the other side of the draft and who still needs a quarterback at that point. Does Pittsburgh not get anything done with Aaron Rodgers and they're kind of stuck with trading for him? Like, that's not a bad place for him
it's not.
to go. So, like, I think for him, this is fine. Like, he's going to wait this one out. Like, I look at this as, you know, the situation too, where does San Fran actually trade Purdy and then they bring him in? Like, that's one of the ones that I had circled for a long time, that if you're not going to pay Purdy, he could definitely be one of the, the emergency levers to pull if they do trade Purdy.
The Purdy one, though, now at this point, who would trade for? Like, I'm with you. I think that that's a possibility they could have done something like that, other than the fact that it's clear that the ownership there wants him. So when they want him, there's no trade to be had. You know, whether John Lynch would do it or Kyle Shanahan would do it or not doesn't even matter. The ownership has stepped in. That's why these things are happening out there, is the ownership stepped in and said, we're going to get this guy at this price point, which is terrible leverage. And they're going, well, the only way we can do that is dumping all these other salaries. And that's why they're doing it. So, so if he was going to be traded, it would have happened by now because too many other dominoes have fallen everywhere else. Where would he be traded to at this point?
But it does just take one team. Like, what if Pittsburgh does call them up and said, we can't find our quarterback? We'll take Purdy off your hands and hand him the money. The Jets only signed Fields. Like, they could call him up and say, we haven't gotten a quarterback either. We'll take him and we'll pay him, right? Like, it only takes a couple of teams for that to really get done. And all of a sudden, they get a haul. You call in Cousins to be the starter. And I actually like Cousins in that offense with all those weapons, too.
The other one that happened yesterday was Stephon Diggs goes to New England on a pretty big deal, like 3 years, 60-something million. I saw that it was only like 26 guaranteed. So actually the numbers are a little deceiving. So maybe it's a little more friendly to the team and easily to get out of if things don't go well. Remember, he got hurt last year. He got hurt in the middle of the year. So it seems like he'll be fine. I know there's a lot of it sounds like he's a piece of work, but in general, a good piece of work, like likes to practice, plays hard. His results speak for itself. New England they're interesting. They bring in Vrabel. They clearly need to upgrade the talent. They're acting a little bit like old school Dan Snyder, where they're just throwing money around to people and to some older players. Like, yeah, Washington signed a bunch of older free agents, but they didn't give them term like this or didn't really give them any kind of deal like this. This feels a little old school where they're like, go get the best guy available and give him whatever he wants. Milton Williams. Oh, Stephon Diggs available 3 weeks after free agency started. Give him a deal that's like commensurate with top receivers in the NFL when no one else seemed to want to really do that immediately. It feels a little old school Washington to me, that they're just like, throw some money around to try to make this roster a lot better really fast. And in our experience, that didn't work out very well, but maybe in theirs it does. We'll see.
I mean, they were desperate for weapons for May. So I get this one. And maybe you hope you unlock a little bit of another level with Diggs too, that they get to play Buffalo a couple times every year. Like, remember that situation was not a clean break. Like, there was some drama to end that one. So,
and he is really good. I don't want to but he's older now. His production went down. You know, there was probably a lot going on there. They then let him go. He had, unfortunately, a bad injury in Houston, but they didn't try to re-sign him, and they have injuries down with their receiving core. They didn't try to re-sign him. So I don't know. Like there's some hazard lights going off with him over what's happened over the last couple of years. But at his best, he is really, really good. And I'll acknowledge that he's really good.
And I'll make the argument here, and like I don't think it's huge, but like that Houston offense didn't look amazing by any means before or after he was out, right? So like that's the other side of that as well. Like if the Patriots are banking on that just being a down year, it's a gamble, but I think it's a good gamble.
Yeah, it is. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I am going to get Jeff Ehrman from Inside Maryland Sports tomorrow on the show to lead into Maryland's Sweet 16 game against Florida. And, of course, what's going on in College Park, which is, I think it's remarkable what is happening in the middle of the NCAA tournament. They've become the story of college basketball because Kevin Willard is in the midst of a power play. Yesterday, he went on with Kevin Sheehan, and I listened to the interview that he did. And his answer, because Kevin asked him, are you staying at Maryland, was, I'm staying for now. Okay. And it sounded more effusive, like it is heading in the direction of, I am literally staying here. Look, the AD is gone. But he hasn't signed anything yet. And he admitted on the show to Kevin, I don't want just verbal assurances of what's going to happen, not just contractually for me, but like what I get for my program to make it, quote unquote, the best in the country. And I don't know, he's not going to be specific about exactly what he wants, but he wants in his contract, I would assume, the revenue share details with players, the amount of NIL they commit to and promise to, I guess, or little things like I get to choose for how long we stay on a trip, which was something he brought up last week that was balked at over some Christmas trip. He wanted to spend an extra night in New York and was mad they wouldn't let him do it because they were penny pinching him and he doesn't want it to be that way. So the takeaway I got from him was just listening to it, and he's in a good position because the team's playing in the Sweet 16 right now, and they don't have an AD, is I am going to get what I want. It's just not going to happen today. But the Villanova job is still open. Richard Pitino, who was linked to it, just signed with Xavier. So I'm not sure that this is happening. And I guess nobody is sure until it does. But it does, at least that's what was my read in listening to him yesterday, was he's staying. He's just going to force them to literally get in writing everything he wants in his contract, whatever exactly that is.
No, this was full blown. I'm here, but we have some bookkeeping that we need to take care of.
Yeah.
And write some things down and some things that I want, and I want some guarantees. And once we smooth that over, we're good. Like we're in it for the long haul. But yeah, it was very much I'm holding firm on where I'm at right in this moment in time. We'll figure out the other stuff on the other side, essentially.
Yes. He name-checked somebody who was in the athletic department who he said, and I didn't know who this person was, but apparently he's been there for a very long time. And Kevin wisely was like, can you tell everybody who this is? Because maybe Kevin knows because, he's ingrained with Maryland, but I didn't know who he was. And so this appears to be his handpicked person that he would like to negotiate with and potentially could be the athletic director or, I don't know, GM of the team. I don't know if Kevin Willard's looking for something like that now to oversee all of this type of stuff, but that's where we're heading. And I will say this again about this, because I do believe that, something here is going to happen to make him happy. Too much has happened around it for it to not happen. Like if Maryland or the administrators were going to take a line in the sand and say, we're not doing all these things, then I think he'd be going to Villanova today. Or at least after the NCAA tournament, right. Whatever. But because that's not happening, clearly the side's been taken with him. And I would just say this to that. And I'm not saying I know the answer to this, but you got to be right about him. Like he better be your Coach K, because he has essentially shaken up the entire athletic department. he's turned into God over there. He's the one to he's saying it's not about the money for him, but they're going to make him one of the highest paid coaches to appease that part of it too. He is saying in writing, the university is going to commit to doing X, Y, and Z that they haven't done in the past, which is going to be a financial commitment for them to do so, because that's what he means. He wants to compete at the highest level monetarily to get all these players in. So when the portal opens up like it did yesterday and people want $2 to $3 million the next day, Maryland goes, here you go. And they're going to be able to do something like that. You better be right about him. And that's the part of this, is you're giving him an extraordinary amount of power in all of this. And I'm not saying he's not the right guy, but I'm not the person making that decision. The people at Maryland need to make that decision. Is he the right guy to turn into the king in College Park? Because that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit tougher of a decision than I think I realized before too, because Loxley spoke yesterday a little bit too, and
we'll get to that.
Okay, said a couple of things, and I went, okay, here we go, Jim. Like we're gonna have to probably make a decision here. And I
told you it's the basketball insurrection. The basketball insurrection occurred. He's saying I'm the king now.
Right, and so with him, it's like, do you want to side with him or not? And I make the argument that he's taken him, to the Sweet 16 now in year 3. He clearly knows how to navigate the NIL landscape with whatever you've given him at this point. And I've said this before too. Maryland's a basketball school. You can tell me the football money is there and that they could take advantage of it, but the football programs in the Big Ten are so much better than Maryland, at least the top ones are, that I just don't see it happening for them. I think you push your eggs into this basket, and so far so good with him on this side. So it's not my decision, but have fun making that decision.
The reality, they're in the Big Ten because football's where the money is. That's why they're there, right?
Exactly.
And you know what? In the end, as much as I hated the move, it obviously was the right thing to do.
Yes.
And they were way ahead of the curve on all of that. Maryland actually got that right. It sucked for people like me who grew up with these rivalries and loved the Duke game and loved the North Carolina game and loved when Virginia was good at the same time. And even with times when Georgia Tech was, I just love the history and all those rivalries. That stuff matters. And I think it mattered to everybody. It was just tough to say goodbye to that. You just can't drum up the same emotion for the game against Iowa or Northwestern yet, but you can't do it. They did it because of the football money. That's not going to change, right?
Right.
You could put your eggs in the basketball basket, but the money is really in football. And they've actually put their money where their mouth is for the facility that they built for Loxley in this program. It's unbelievable. I've never been in a football facility like this. The stadium is what the stadium is. Like they're kind of in a Northwest Stadium situation where they really need to upgrade it or change it or do something, but it is what it is. Everything around it, all the infrastructure they have around it, the training facility is amazing. So they put this money into it. We're not seeing the results on the field. And at some point, I think you have to see results on the field. And that's why this is dangerous for Locks. Fresh eyes that come in, if it's a new AD or a GM, they're going to look at this differently than the previous administration did. That said, Loxley just got an extension, and the people I talked to over the weekend who are supporters of the program are like, they're not buying him out right now. He's not going anywhere. And he just got this young freshman quarterback that's like ranked in the top 5 in the country. I think you need to see it through at least one more year with him. How does he do with this great prospect at quarterback, and see how it goes? That said, I saw what Loxley said about all this because he was asked, because spring football is going on right now. And I will tell you, this was Loxley at times he doesn't kill it in the interviews and sometimes puts his foot in his mouth. And I've actually seen him even kind of not off the record, but in off script moments where I'm like, dude, you better lock it up a little bit here. I thought the way he handled this yesterday was perfect. His answer to it was, I'm not going to put my head in the sand and I'm not going to pretend I don't know what's going on or watching all this stuff. And obviously, but he said, every family's got its issues and you keep your family issues in house, period, and ended it. It said, that's my comment on it. I have nothing to say about this. And I thought it was, at this juncture, the exact right thing to do to not wade into it, because right now he's not in charge of these decisions. The other guy is, and the other guy's team might be in the Final Four by the end of the weekend. So I think Loxley wisely stayed out of all of the fray publicly, at least for the time being. And I don't think the time is now for him to wade into it, honestly.
He also had a little bit of a, like, I don't think it was a shot at Willard by any means, but he had an acknowledgement of, like, I think someone asked him what kind of went wrong last year. And he said, "Oh, I thought I lost the locker room last year." And then he followed up by saying that I take pride in keeping my locker room and keeping things in-house. Like, he kind of just doubled down on, like, hey, remember how there are no problems with the football program? Like, sure, maybe we're not as good as you want, but we don't have any problems, and I'm not bitching about anything. Like, I thought that's what that was, of just like, I keep it all in house. And, last year, maybe it went off the rails a little bit. That usually doesn't happen with me. I thought it was a smart play by Loxley yesterday.
Oh, and the last thing, and this is just like, again, I'm just reading the tea leaves from being around a lot of people that are big booster sponsors of the Maryland program. When I posed the question of, do you really think Kevin Willard is this guy that you want to put this much power into his hands? They all said yes to me. So if they're like, and he probably knows that, which is why he is taking the move. He's making the move that he's made. He's trying to pull checkmate right now because I think he knows he can.
Yeah.
And everything to this point has shown that he can. And I even think win or lose, it doesn't even matter against Florida. I think he's in the position he's in. He's got them over a barrel and I don't know that he should have them over a barrel, but that's their decision to make. And they seem to think that they need to push every egg into his basket. And I'm assuming he's going to stay. But as he told Kevin yesterday, I'm here for now. So we'll see what happens. Right. All right. Let me take a quick break. Very much the show is ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Let's see. Last night, big boy hockey again. Caps whooped the Panthers, who's a team that's a contender in the East, and then had to fly to Winnipeg and took on the best team in the West, the Winnipeg Jets. They got a late goal from Ovi, so he's 6 away from the record now, but fell in overtime to Winnipeg. And if this was any other sport, this is a preview of the Stanley Cup Final. But 1v1 in the Stanley Cup Final almost never happens because the randomizer hits when the Stanley Cup playoffs begin, and one of them is bound to lose at some point before they even get that far. But this was, I think, a good test, another really good test here late in the season to see where both of these teams were.
Yeah, I think it was Greg Wyshynski who wrote a piece on, like, every team's Stanley Cup chances. He basically said the Caps and Jets are hot potatoing the President's Trophy back to one another because that winner never makes it to the Stanley Cup at this point. So it's almost like, don't win that. But yeah, last night it lived up to all of the expectations. It got really physical. It got a little chippy there. Tom Wilson drew a penalty by just doing what he does, and that's hitting people. And then Luke Shen goes after him and he just skates away. Caps get a power play. They can't cash in, but this was a really good game. Lived up to the billing. 2-2 goes to overtime. You know how it is in overtime in the NHL. 3-on-3 is just pinball. So not surprised that they lost in overtime. They had a shot in overtime too to win the thing. They didn't. But all in all, Ovechkin gets back on track with this record too. So it's fine. Like, I'm not going to panic over this game. And he loves playing in Minnesota. So tomorrow, watch out. Like, I think tomorrow you got a big Ovechkin game incoming. I liked this game by the Caps, though. They held up perfectly fine against the Jets. Jets held up perfectly fine against them.
You know what? What was it? What game was it? There was a game, I think it was Pittsburgh, where he didn't score. Yeah. But because they were killing him in that game, they were actively trying to get him to score.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're heading to a part of the season where if they lock up the 1 seed pretty soon, I think they're going to go out of their way to try to get this over with. That's what I think. That's what I feel like is going to happen. Like, they're already in the playoffs. They're already going to be a very high seed. They're not far away from securing the top seed. If that happens and they have a couple games left, or maybe a few, I bet they go out of their way to try to make this happen on his behalf.
We're starting to knock out certain things too. Like yesterday, before the game even started, they clinched home ice advantage for the first round. Like, I think the Devils are the only team that could, like, threaten that. So that happened. So they're already knocking those off the list. Also, when the scores get a certain way, like you mentioned the Pittsburgh game, I look at the Panthers game on Saturday. They scored 3 goals in the second period. And in the third period, they were forcing it to number 8. Like, Protas was legitimately forcing it to number 8. So that's going to happen down the stretch here. I think it's going to happen, though, when the scores dictate it, though, on a game-to-game basis, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But the last couple games could be meaningless.
Sure.
if they have everything tied up, and then at that point it's total Obi watch. Let's see how many goals we can get the guy.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened yesterday was, and this was kind of in the works, but Jacob Chikrin got a massive extension from the team. It will make him one of the highest paid players on the team. So the money is really shifting now. Pierre-Luc Dubois has a lot of money attached to him. He'll be one of the highest paid players on the team. Jacob Chikrin is now next in line. Backstrom and Oshie's contracts are going to expire after next year. Ovi's got only 1 year left. Wilson's got big money behind him. Thompson has big money behind him now. And you've seen the transition. It's happened. Ryan Leonard's going to show up, and hopefully things go well. And we're talking about that with him in a few years too. We'll see. This guy, to me, he's the hit of the offseason that they had. Like, they, not unlike the Commanders, boy, did they get a lot right in the offseason to make this all happen at this point in time. But he's been the difference maker for them of the new people that came into them.
No, not only this, look at the age. He's 26 years old. So by the time this deal is up, he's going to be 34, 35. Look at how old John Carlson is. John Carlson is 35 at this moment. He's going to take over the John Carlson spot, essentially. And this goes back to this front office has been bang on with almost everything they've done. They traded Nick Jensen in a 3rd round pick for Chikrin. And now they found their, offensive defenseman of the future, the guy that's going to run the power play and take shots from the blue line for the next 8 years. This front office has been so good. And they went through with their promise. They said, we're going to compete while Ovechkin gets this record and hopefully set things up on the other side. And they have. And it's not just that either. Yeah. They have this kid, Andrew Crystal, that leads the league, his junior league in points right now. They have Alexi Protas's little brother, Ilya Protas, that has over 100 points too. They have Ryan Leonard that's coming over from Boston College. I was scared about the post-Ovechkin era. They, in fact, have a lot of star power on the way, and we're not even through this Ovechkin era yet. Hat tip to the Caps for actually taking those kind of 2 years where I wouldn't call it a reset, but they managed their assets a little bit differently for about 2 seasons there, and it's really set them up for success on the other side of this. Bang on job by them. I mean, we're talking now. They are set up to basically make the playoffs almost every year for almost about 20 years straight. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous when you look at it.
All the awards, coach of the year, front office of the year, like that's got to happen for this team. They really, I didn't know they could thread the needle. They did. Like, I've been worried for a few years now. This is a tough needle you got to thread, especially with this record on the line. They figured it out, and they might win a cup while doing it at the same time. That's unbelievable. All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Brad Bush's show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital.